Let's talk about vinyl for a little bit, actually. Referring to the hat that I'm wearing, the Heady Wax Fiends. I do have a couple of questions from some friends of mine in the group. Now, the original Led Zeppelin albums are known for the way that they were pressed, and that every record was said to even tremble from the bass. Some consider those to be the perfect recordings of Zeppelin albums. Do you agree or disagree? Because some have suggested that let it shake, rattle, and roll, that's the template for the way vinyl should be. Or do you feel like it should be different?
A vinyl is a physical medium. It's what you call a groove media, okay? And there's limitations to that format in terms of how much spread is the stereo and how much low end information can move from side to side without affecting the actual groove cut, the cut. So there's a lot of limitations in vinyl, and to overcome them, you have to be very technically capable of doing those things with the gear that you have in hand, and not every cutter will have the same gear. So it's not the same lathe, it's not the same cutting computer, it's not the same cutting amplifiers and processors. So I think that um, there's no one way to cut a record. Probably the only way is to do your best job with what you have. But you can have a record cut by a few different cutting engineers, even if you supply them the same material, and it will sound different. The cut will be different based on their equipment and their knowledge and the ability to work with what they have.
And on the strength of the mix and the master as well.
Yes, but that's something that, like I said, if you give them the same one,
Fair, yes.
they will give you different results based on their equipment and knowledge and the ability to transfer that
Speaking of
into the lab.
which, speaking of which leads me wonderfully to my next question from my friend Matt Heller. Um, he used the example of Frank Zappa's 200 Motels and how the original mix did not sound good, but the reissue was absolutely magnificent. And I'd love to hear a little bit about how, saying we have the original master, what does it take to bring that brightness and that width out of the mix that the original master did not have?
So it's a good question. It's actually very complicated to answer that because a lot of times people call the original, but sometimes the original is not the original. It's a copy of something. And also the opposite, the remaster could be a copy. Sometimes the remaster sounds way different, and the complaint is it's less good, and in some cases it's not the actual original copy
We're not
of the.
we're not going to get to my third question yet, but yeah, go ahead.
So it's a chicken and the egg here. There is also a matter of what equipment was used back in the day to create that record, either in vinyl or in CD. And certain things were transferred to digital as is, and they were more fitting in the vinyl way. They were the way they were EQ'd. And then when they were transferred, they sounded a bit different. And then later on, years afterwards, they took the original tapes and then they re-EQ'd them to fit the CD format, or re-EQ'd them also for vinyl on other equipment. Sometimes they could add high end or low end or rebalance it. And it's not uncommon that certain records were done in a certain era with the limitations, and then 10, 20, 30 years after they were redone, either remixed again, so there's new balances, or just remastered, or remixed and remastered, of course. That, if you remix, you're going to remaster it again. Um, and the equipment or the ability to work with new things opened uh, the possibility of improving it. And I've done that, for example, with the band Faith No More. They had a record called We Care a Lot, and it was assigned to an indie label back then. And almost 10 years ago, I think it probably nine a bit, half years ago, I had the chance to remaster it from the original tapes. And we got more low end, we got more punch, we got more level, of course. Uh, Basically using the original tapes, but now we have better equipment to work with it and time too.
Well, in that case, where you have an original that's a classic, what's become a classic album, that then got the remaster treatment. One of my favorite bands, and will be the final question in this segment. One of my favorite bands, God Street Wine, their 1992 album Bag. The only version really publicly available is the 2012 remaster. And my question is there a case where it would make sense for a band to just not put out the original release and only put up a marked remaster?
So I'll go back to the Faith No More example. So now, if you go online, you'll find most cases you'll find the remastered version. It's called Faith No More We Care a Lot, the Deluxe Band Edition. And the reason you'll find in a lot of cases a remastered version is because there's new contracts that happens with different record labels, and sometimes a major label will or a subsidiary of that major label will buy the rights for a new version of it, or they'll buy the rights for the original, but now they want to repress it or reissue it, and to make it more worth for people to maybe buy it, they'll add bonus tracks. Just like we did with the Faith No More. There's the original album remastered, and then there's a lot of bonus tracks and rare versions of the songs, from demos to different remixes to live. So nowadays, it's not uncommon that you won't see the original version and you'll see a remaster, especially in streaming services. When it comes to CDs, you can still find reprints because some companies will just reprint the original.
I actually, when I saw God Street Wine a couple of months ago at the time of this taping, was hoping to grab a copy, and the only one available was in the box set, and it was the remaster. So, even on a CD, that's what I've got, and that'll end the Fiend's Fault question section. Thank you very much for the submissions, folks. We really appreciate it.